How's it going?
Good.
Yeah. Go get yourself some toffee pops later, Sam.
Oh, I will. There's a dairy just round the corner. I'll go
Oh,
get some
ha
from
ha
there.
ha 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 ha. Yes.
Yeah.
Very
And then I'll
good.
eat them at you at stand up.
Like aggressively eat toffee pops.
Yeah.
We'll have a
Feel like
toffee pop
what I've
off.
got.
Like I'll go get mine, you go get yours, and we'll be like, okay, let's see who can devour the entire pack of toffee pops fastest. Go.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think I can manage
Yeah,
that.
no, no. Like when you get above 30, it's over. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that sort of thing anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Ah, wow.
Balancing monkey games, talking about the important issues.
So how are you feeling? Like the Planet Editor's coming out tomorrow. You and Isaac have done a lot of bug fixing, bug
Oh,
squishing,
yeah. Yep.
polishing,
Yep.
all
No,
that good
feeling
stuff.
really good. It's feeling quite polished. It's feeling really good to use. Um,
Mm. Yes, I've
so,
really,
yeah.
yeah, it's, I'm so glad that it's going to be out soon.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm so keen to see what the heck other people are going to make with it.
yes,
Um,
yes.
That's going to be pretty awesome. We've had like when we've talked about it, like on the Discord and stuff.
Mm.
I was actually really amazed. A lot of people were really excited by the idea that they'd be able to like create their D&D worlds in it,
I
um,
know.
and all stuff like that. Not just making things to play in before we leave. So that was pretty cool.
For
Looking forward to
sure.
seeing that.
Well, like, there's this map editor that I used to use when I played D&D. I can't remember what it's called for the life of me now, but it was literally like a hexagonal, yeah, it was like drawing on hex grid paper, but like just a
Right.
little program for it, like probably written in
Yeah.
Java. Very simple, very cool to use. So I hope people use Before We Leave in the same way, just like create a really big planet and go nuts. um, Bowie has a good question. What percentage of your player base do you expect will use the Planet Editor? That's a
Oh,
really
I
good
have
question.
no idea.
We've had a lot of people talk about it, express interest in it, ask for it, but in terms of like hard statistics, we actually don't have any.
Yeah.
We just know that there's correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but we just know that there's like an element of our player base who really enjoys sandbox worlds and
Yeah.
being creative and just relaxing while they're playing a game. Like there's no negative consequences to what you do in the Planet Editor because you're just like
Yep.
putting stuff down, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's quite a lot of people that just, play in the planet editor, mucking around making planets, almost like a consequenceless version of Dorf Romantic or something like Townscape or whatever. You're just mucking around making pretty planets. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a chunk of people that do that but don't actually use them in game.
for sure.
And then there'll be people that go hard out making either easy planets or interesting planets or whatever to play in game. So yeah, we'll see. Really interested to see what kind of things that people are going to use it for.
Oh, absolutely. A thought just occurred to me actually. What people do with like, pardon me, sorry, Dragon Age Inquisition, which came out. Oh god, it came out in 2014. It still feels like a new game. Oh, sorry, Sam, you have
Oh,
to
we're
run the
old.
stream now. While I have an existential crisis because it. Oh no. So, people literally just like boot up Dragon Age Inquisition and make characters, take some
Yeah.
beautiful screenshots, and that's it. That's all they do. That's what they use the game
Right.
for. So people might interact with Before We Leave in a similar way.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Now that the Planet Editor is going to be out really, really soon, and our focus on user-made content is kind of wrapping up for now, not permanently, just temporarily. What are we going to be doing over the next few months? Very high level. Obviously, we can't
Yep.
really say definitively because we're still sorting it out, as I've mentioned in a couple of news posts now over on
Yep.
Steam. Yeah, what are we going to be focusing on?
Yeah, well, the high level thing basically is having released on Steam for the first time we've had reviews, and so like being on Epic for the last year, we've had people giving us feedback on the Discord and on Reddit and all that, and that's been amazing, and it's done so much to shape the game.
That's been good.
But having released on Steam, with the Steam forums and with Steam user reviews, it's given us a whole bunch more feedback on the game. And so now is the time, because we came into the Steam release kind of knowing that we wanted to do the Planet Editor next.
Yeah.
But the next focus is going to be on just adding stuff, changing stuff to take that feedback into account. So I mean, I can't guarantee anything, and I can't tell you anything for sure. We're doing some prototyping at the moment. A few things that we'd really like to do this, but we don't actually know if it's even possible. So we'll just hack on the code, give it a go internally, see if it works out, kind of thing. But we're looking at shipping. We're looking at things that we can do to make islands more variable, especially for like the mid game and end game. And considering some new classes of buildings. So I mean, it's entirely possible that none of that comes to fruition, but that's kind of the areas we're looking in. Just ways to answer people's feedback. So
for sure. Yeah, it's
really excited to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what comes of the prototypes. I'm curious to get my hands on them and just like feel what we can do. It's really hard to design around a pre-existing game like Before We Leave, because we are quite limited with what we can do in terms of the systems that the game already has built in and everything like that. So it's a challenge. We do listen to feedback. Actually, let me just address this really quickly, because we do get people that get frustrated that we don't listen to feedback, but we absolutely do. It's not a matter of like we read it and we're like, that's a bad idea, we're never going to do that. That maybe happens like 1% of the time when we read posts from our community, but we definitely try our best and implement what people want into the game. And there's also like, how do you balance, because there's like several audience segments with our community, right? Like, how do you balance what one audience segment wants versus another? Because often they're diametrically opposed. Like, people will just want different. Bowie says, I mean, you need to stick to your vision. That is also true. Yes, that's also really important. There's something to be said for devs caving to overwhelming pressure to make something outside of their vision. And that doesn't have great consequences in terms of like games culturally and how that impacts the wider game development community. I'm getting on my soapbox. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, as Bowie just posted, you need to stick to your vision. But at the same time, games are meant to be played. They're meant to be played by people.
Yep.
And so if your vision is too important to you and you can't take feedback, then who's gonna buy your game? And I quite like eating. I quite like paying my mortgage. I quite like sending my children to school in clothes. So in the end, we've got to make our money, and we're not going to do that if we stick too closely to our vision.
That's so true.
Don't take on feedback. I mean, it's different for different kinds of games. Some games, like especially sort of strongly story-based games, the vision needs to be the vision. It is what it is. You like it and play it and like it, or you don't. That's fine. But for a game like this, where it's very much about effectively giving players the thing that they want, while also taking into account our vision for what that should be. So it's a balancing act that we're working out. Yeah, totally.
That's so true. It's so hard. Just like balancing mechanics in games, you got to also balance the needs of your community versus your vision.
Mm.
Woof. Yeah, can we go into any specific? Oh, you talked about like the shipping and what we're also looking at changing. What is something that you're most proud of? Like looking at the patch notes, like when you read them, is there something that you're particularly pleased with that we've done with the Planet Editor?
This update.
Yeah.
For the Planet Editor update, yeah. I really like, so we've added in the ability to place upgraded buildings directly. So it used to be that if you wanted like a kitchen 3 upgrade, you'd have to place a kitchen and then upgrade it to kitchen 2 and then upgrade it to kitchen 3. Whereas now you are able to control, you like hold down control, click on the kitchen button, and it brings up a wee menu of kitchen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can build whichever one you want. The only limitation is you can only build an upgrade if you've already upgraded to it the normal way. So until you've upgraded to a kitchen 3 somewhere, you can't place them directly.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And so that just simplifies things for players so much, able to build whatever they like more easily.
For sure. I'm really pleased with that change too, because I just like kind of forget that I can upgrade buildings after like researching them, just because there's a lot of stuff going on before we leave, so just the ability to be like, oh, I can just place that upgraded thing immediately is like so good. Such a nice change. Bowie's asking, are you afraid that people might feel like they have to relearn how to play before we leave if you change or add some mechanics? Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big concern. If you make a change that's too large and in particular not optional and annoy all your existing players, then that's pretty dumb. So it really is a big balancing act between what can we get away with for our existing players versus what can we do to bring in new players and make them, make more people want to buy the game.
Yes.
And certainly, like some of the changes we're considering would be optional. Some of them would be like, by default, you're going to get this change, but you can turn it off, and some of them would be things you can turn on. We've actually got quite a lot of settings in the difficulty settings dialogue when you start a new game already. And a lot of that was, some of that was like things we wanted to change but didn't feel we could, so we'll put them into the difficulty settings and let people turn them on or off if they want to. So, yeah.
Yes, that was a good move, for sure. I also think the playtesting is really important. So, like, just being super in touch with your community. Obviously, I'm going to say that because I'm the community bloody manager. So, like, testing and making sure that your community and your audience are getting their hands on the game before you actually ship an update. And making sure that they don't completely hate it. And, like, people are happy and all that sort of thing.
I was really pleased with the suggestion. It actually came from Team 17 suggesting we create the experimental branch. So that's now on Steam and Epic. You can opt into the experimental branch, which has lived up to its name and broken things for people occasionally.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. We try not to. But it does mean that we're able to send features out to people and see what they think of them and stuff.
Absolutely. What a great suggestion too from Team 17. Thanks, gang. Thank you. Westy Chick NZ asks, would you ever consider allowing building moves instead of destroying and rebuilding them? Funny you should mention that. I believe we talked about this in a meeting not 2 weeks ago, right?
Yep, we did. So it's been requested, and we seriously considered adding it, but once I can't honestly remember the exact details, But once we got down to the details of what would this actually mean for the game and how would it actually play out, I can't remember whether we decided it just didn't fit what we were trying to make or whether it was actually technically problematic. But anyway, we decided we're not going to do it, at least for the moment. More than once I've said, oh no, we can't do that. And then we've come back and said, actually, turns out it's not so hard.
I feel like you and Isaac are gonna look into it maybe, because there was this thought of like, maybe we can have it in such a way where like rather than the building just like being moved automatically and there's no consequences, there could be like scaffolding or something put up around the building and the peeps actually have to work on shifting the building. It just takes less time than like completely bulldozing it and then rebuilding it. Was that a conversation that we had?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
See, I mean, it is a lot of these things, like, for example, I've noticed that your elevator there is happily carrying multiple peeps because it's got electricity at it.
Yes.
And for a long time, people were saying the elevators need to carry more peeps, and I was like, no, we can't. It's just too hard. And then Isaac one day went and actually had a go at it and was like, no, actually, it's not so bad. And I think moving or rotating buildings is kind of in that situation where at the moment I'm like, yeah, it's once you actually start digging into the real fine details, it becomes quite tricky. But that's not to say we won't do it. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So stay tuned, Westy Chick. I guess we'll just go look at our meeting minutes and figure out what we actually decided. There's also a question about allowing roads to buildings to be destroyed and moved. Ooh, have we talked about that?
Yeah, it's kind of in the similar vein.
Same
You
boat?
know, so once if you've got a building, then the road entry point to it is fixed. You can't like spin the building around or move it or delete the road, because that just kind of mucks everything up. But you know, if we one day kind of figure out how we might do it, then it's not out of the question.
Yeah, true. Yes, of course, Isaac fixed it. Yes, Isaac, the MVP. He's a good egg. Well, thank you very much for hanging out with me as always, Sam.
No worries.
And I'm looking forward to getting the Planet Editor update out tomorrow.
Totally. Yeah.
Ugh.
So looking forward to it.
Yes, for sure. All right. Well,
Cool.
I'll kick you off now.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Sam. Thanks again.